Lyra Quinn stood behind the greasy counter of Skybeam's cafe, wiping a cracked mug for the third time. Her hands were tired, her feet ached, and the only tip she had earned all day were a few silver coins and a broken promise from a talkative old man. Skyrim Prime was a floating city in the clouds, bright on the outside but cool underneath. Everything was expensive: rent, food, even air in some districts. Lyra worked double shifts to survive, but it was never enough. Her mother had passed away last year, and her younger brother, Jonah, needed medicine the public clinics no longer gave for free. As she stepped outside for a breath of air, two men in black coats waited near the alley. They weren't thugs, not exactly. They wore clean suits and strange glasses that glowed faintly. One of them spoke in a smooth voice. "Lyra Quinn?" She hesitated. "Yes, you've been selected for a marriage contract. 5 days. Full protection. Full payment." Lyra blinked. "Marriage contract? What are you talking about?" The second man handed her a thin tablet. On the screen was a simple message: "Marry Cadden Voss. 5 days. No questions. Reward: 1 million sky credits. Paid immediately after. Cadden Voss." She knew the name. Everyone did. An 80-year-old billionaire who disappeared from public life years ago. People said he owned half of Skyrim Prime factories, sky farms, energy cores. Rumors said he was mad. Others whispered he was building something dangerous in secret. But no one had seen him in person for over a decade. "This must be a mistake," she said. "It's no mistake," said the first man. "He chose you. You can walk away. Or you can save your brother's life." That last line hit hard. Her brother's meds had run out last week. She was already hiding the truth from him. She signed. The next morning, she was taken by aircar to a part of the city she'd never seen before, high above the clouds, where the rich lived in quiet towers of gold and glass. They flew toward a private sky island covered in thick mist. At the center stood a tall, old mansion. Metal vines crawled over its stone walls, and glowing blue lanterns hung from poles that swayed without wind. Inside, the mansion was strangely cold, not in temperature, but in feeling. The hallways were empty. No pictures, no sound. Only the soft hum of machines and quiet footsteps of servant bots moving in smooth patterns. She was led to a large room with tall windows and a silver chair near the fire. In the chair sat a thin, pale man. His face was lined, his eyes dark and deep. He looked fragile, like a shadow. But when he spoke, his voice was clear. "You're smaller than I expected," he said. "But your eyes are strong." "That's good. You single quotes read. Mr. Voss?" She asked. "I used to be." She didn't understand what that meant. "I won't bother you much," he continued. "You're here for 5 days. You will eat well. You will not be harmed. In return, you will wear the ring and sign the papers. When the time comes, you'll receive your payment and leave." Lyra looked at the ring. It was simple, cold, like everything else in the house. "One rule," he added. "There is a door on the east side of the mansion. It stays locked. You do not go near it. Ever." She nodded, even though her stomach twisted. That night, she couldn't sleep. The mansion was too quiet. Outside her window, she saw faint blue lights moving through the fog, circling the house like watchers. Down the hall, the east door pulsed once, just a flicker of blue light, and then it went dark again. The next morning, Lyra woke up to the soft sound of music playing in the distance. It was not like the music she heard in cafes or on skytrams. It was slow, strange, and made her feel like someone was watching her dream. Her room was huge, much bigger than her entire home back in the lower districts. A tall mirror stood near the window, and a set of fresh clothes had been laid out on a velvet chair. A soft voice came from a speaker in the ceiling. "Good morning, Mrs. Voss. Breakfast is ready." Mrs. Voss. The name still felt wrong. She got dressed and followed the quiet servant bot down a shiny hallway. The walls were lined with strange art. Some looked like stars exploding, others like machines made from bone and crystal. Lyra stopped in front of one painting. It showed a young man, dark hair, sharp jaw, eyes full of fire, standing in front of a strange machine. The signature said, "Si vos." "That can't be him," she whispered. In the dining hall, the long table was already set with hot food, pancakes, fruit cubes, steamed bread, and warm tea that smelled like honey and firewood. Cadden Vos was already there, sitting upright, reading something from a glass screen. He looked up and smiled gently. "Sleep well?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, thank you." "Good," he said. "Let's enjoy peace while it lasts." She didn't ask what he meant. Every time she looked at him, she felt he was hiding something. His eyes were too sharp for someone his age, and his voice had no weakness. It didn't match the thin hands and slow movements. As they ate, Lyra noticed tiny cameras in the corners of the room. They blinked red once and went dark. Cadden didn't seem to care. "You can explore the house today," he said. "Most rooms are open to you." She hesitated. "Except the east wing?" His spoon paused in the air. "Yes, especially that." Later, Lyra wandered through the mansion. She walked through the library. Books written in human and alien languages sat side by side. She entered the music room, where a floating violin played itself. She even found a room filled with holograms of planets, spinning slowly in the air like glass balls. But no matter where she went, her mind kept going back to the east wing. The door was tall and black, with glowing blue lines running through it like veins. No handle, no keypad. Just metal. That night, while lying in bed, she heard the hum again. A soft mechanical sound like a heart beating inside the walls. She got up, tiptoed down the hallway, and reached the east door. It pulsed again. Blue light. One slow beat. Then silence. She placed her hand on the metal. It was cold but alive. The veins lit up beneath her palm for a second, before turning off again. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind her. "I told you not to come here." She jumped and turned. Cadden stood in the shadows, wearing a long coat, his eyes darker than before. I heard a sound," she said quickly. "I couldn't sleep." He stepped forward slowly. "That door leads to the only secret I have left." Lyra swallowed hard. "What is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked away. Before he disappeared into the shadows, he spoke again. "Curiosity can be a key, but it can also be a trap." That night, Lyra lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. The soft music returned, but this time it wasn't calming. It felt like a warning, like the house itself was whispering to her. She looked out the window. Blue lights floated through the mist again. Only this time, they stopped outside her window, and one of them blinked. Not like a machine. The next day, Lyra woke up feeling different. She couldn't stop thinking about the blue eye that had stared at her through the window. Was it a drone? A camera? Or something else? She had seen many machines in her life, but nothing like that. She dressed quickly and opened her window to look outside. There was no sign of the light now. Just thick white fog swirling around the floating mansion like a living blanket. No sounds, no birds. Just silence. At breakfast, Cadden wasn't there. Only the servant bot stood near the table, offering her a cup of warm tea. It didn't speak unless spoken to. She looked around the huge empty room and suddenly felt very small. "Where is Mr. Voss?" she asked. "Mr. Voss is in the east wing," the bot replied calmly. She frowned. The east wing, the same wing he told her never to enter. All day, she tried to stay busy. She went to the library again, trying to distract herself with books. But the words didn't stay in her mind. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the door. Why? Was it glowing? What was behind it? And why did the machines in this house feel alive? Late that afternoon, while walking past the main hallway, she saw something strange. One of the cleaning bots was frozen in place. Its arms were twitching, and its eyes blinked in a weird rhythm. Blue, red. Then it dropped something small and shiny onto the floor. Lyra picked it up. It was a crystal chip, flat, round, and glowing faintly. Curious, she took it to her room and plugged it into her portable screen. At first, static, then shapes. Then, a strange image filled the screen. A silver pod. Inside it, Cadden Voss. But not the old man. It was a younger version of him, looking exactly like the man in the painting she saw earlier in the hallway. He had no wrinkles, no thin hair, no weak eyes. He looked like he was asleep, peaceful, frozen. Her heart raced. Was this a recording, a memory, or something real? The screen blinked and flashed words across the bottom. Biostasis protocol. Locked. Activation pending. Lyra pulled the chip out quickly. Her hands were shaking. That night, she avoided dinner and stayed in her room. She couldn't look at Cadden the same way anymore. Who was the real one? The old man she spoke with every day, or the younger version locked inside a machine? And why was there a secret pod in the East Wing? Suddenly, the lights in her room flickered. Then, everything went dark. Lyra stood up, heart pounding. Through her window, the blue lights were back. This time, there were more of them. They floated slowly, circling the mansion again, like silent guards or watchers. She grabbed the flashlight and stepped into the hallway. The East Wing was glowing. The door she was warned about pulsed softly, the blue veins brighter than ever. This time it felt like it was calling her. She walked toward it carefully. Each step echoed through the quiet corridor. When she placed her hand on the door, it didn't feel cold. It felt warm. Alive. The veins lit up and stayed on. And then, something new happened. A thin crack appeared in the center of the door. A soft sound followed, like a breath being taken after a long sleep. She stepped back, frightened, but the door did not open. It simply spoke. A voice came through. Mechanical, but gentle. Unauthorized access detected. Human profile, Lyra Quinn. Emotional signature, matched. She froze. Matched? To what? Before she could ask, the lights turned red, then blue, then went dark again, and the door whispered one last word: awakening. Lyra couldn't sleep that night. The word awakening echoed in her mind again and again. What was the door talking about? Why did it scan her and say her emotional signature matched? What did it match with? She had many questions, and no answers. By morning, her hands were still trembling. Cadden appeared at breakfast like nothing had happened. He wore a soft gray robe and looked calm, even peaceful. His wrinkled hands held a small book, and he smiled at her politely. "You didn't eat last night," he said. "I wasn't hungry," Lyra replied, trying not to show her fear. "I see," he nodded. "The house can be unsettling at times." She stared at him, wondering if he knew she had touched the east door. If he did, he didn't show it. "Are you really 80? She asked suddenly. He looked up. There was a long pause before he answered. "Time is strange," he said softly. "It doesn't always move the same way for everyone." It wasn't a real answer. Lyra knew it. But she didn't press him. That evening, when the house grew quiet and the fog thickened outside, Lyra made her decision. She had to see what was behind that door. She had to know the truth about Cadden, the glowing lights, and the strange pod in the video chip. She slipped out of her room, flashlight in hand. The hallways were dark now, and the only sound was the soft humming of the walls. When she reached the East Wing, the door didn't glow. It just stood still, black and silent. Lyra placed her hand on it again. "Please," she whispered. "I just want to understand." To her surprise, the veins lit up once more. This time the door slowly opened with a quiet hiss, revealing a long hallway glowing with pale blue light. She stepped inside. The hallway led to a large, underground chamber cold. quiet and filled with machines she couldn't recognize. Clear glass tubes lined the walls. Some were empty. Others held floating orbs of light or strange shapes that looked almost human. But not quite. In the center of the room stood the pod from the video. Inside it, the young version of Caden Voss lay motionless. His eyes were closed, but he looked healthy, like someone asleep in a deep dream. Wires connected his body to the floor, and symbols glowed softly around the chamber. Lyra's breath caught. So it was real. She moved closer to a nearby screen. It blinked to life as she approached. Words appeared on the display. Name, Caden Voss Project. Biostasis status, primary body active. Clone in stasis. Soul link stable. Emotional key incomplete. Soul link? Clone? Nothing made sense. Then another message flashed. Emotional signature detected. Compatible match. Lyra Quinn final key. Present. Do you wish to proceed with awakening? Lyra stared at the message, heart pounding. Why me? She whispered, what am I the key to? Before she could touch anything, the pod released a soft mist, and the young Caden stirred. His eyelids twitched, his fingers moved. Lights in. The chamber began to blink faster. Suddenly, a voice came from behind her. You weren't supposed to find this yet. She turned around fast. The old Caden stood there, but something was different. His eyes were glowing faintly. And behind him, the doorway sealed shut. You lied to me, Lyra said, backing away. I didn't lie, he said calmly. I just waited for what? He looked at her with a strange sadness. For the one who could finish what I started. Lyra looked at the sleeping younger version of him, then back at the man in front of her. One, Caden was resting. The other was watching, and the chamber around her began to hum louder, as if something deep beneath the mansion was waking up. Lyra stared at the older Caden, her heart racing. The air inside the secret lab felt heavier now. The walls hummed, the machines blinked faster, and the young version of Caden inside the pod looked like he could open his eyes at any second. What is this place? Lyra asked, her voice trembling. This, said Caden slowly, is the future I've been building. Quietly, carefully, for years, she stepped back, confused. Why me? Why bring me here? I'm just a waitress. Caden gave a soft smile. That's exactly why. He walked forward, calmly, as if the strange machines and glowing screens were normal. He placed a hand on the pod, and for a moment, both his wrinkled face and the young version inside the chamber looked the same. I once believed that money and science could solve everything, he said. I had power, fame, and a brilliant mind, but I was still missing something. Lyra didn't speak. She just listened. I created this younger body, he continued. A perfect version of myself, strong, healthy, and ready to lead. But I couldn't complete the transfer. Transfer? She asked. My memories, my soul, everything I am. It needed an emotional key to unlock. Something real. Something pure. He turned to her. I searched for years, but only one person's. Emotional energy matched yours. Lyra blinked in shock. Why mine? Because you've felt pain, but still stayed kind. You've suffered loss, yet kept hope. You care for your brother, even when the world doesn't care for you. That's rare now, Lyra. Very rare. The lights around the pod turned gold. Final key confirmed. Soul link stabilizing. A warm wind moved through the lab, though there were no windows. The young Caden inside the pod opened his eyes. They were the same eyes, sharp, full of thought. And now awake. Step back, the old Caden said softly. It's starting. Lyra moved aside as the pod slowly opened. Mist rose into the air. The younger Caden sat up, looking around, as if seeing the world for the first time. He looked at Lyra and smiled. So this is the one? He asked. Yes, said the older version, who now looked tired. She completed what I couldn't. Lyra stood frozen. Two Cadens, one old, one young. Both real. What happens now? She asked. The older Caden stepped away from the pod. Now I rest. And he continues. His voice grew weak. His body, once strong enough to stand, now seemed fragile again. He looked at Lyra one last time. Thank you, he whispered. Then he closed his eyes, and the machines around him faded to black. He didn't fall or break. He simply stopped like a candle going out. The younger Caden stepped forward and gently touched the old man's shoulder. He gave everything for this. But it was your heart that unlocked it. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't asked for this. She had just wanted to help her brother and escape her hard life. But now she was part of something bigger, something beyond science and money. What are you going to do now? She asked. The young Caden looked at the walls around them. There's more to finish. The arbiters, they're coming. Lyra frowned. The arbiters? Machines, he said. Built by humans long ago. They now believe emotions are errors. They want to remove them from all life. He looked at her, serious now. But you proved that emotions are power. You reminded the system that being human is our strength. Lyra felt a strange energy rise in her chest. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew one thing: her life had just changed forever, and the real story was only beginning. The walls of the mansion shook as the arbiter drone moved inside. Its sharp, silver body was built for one thing: destruction without emotion. It didn't run or charge. It simply walked, step by step, like it already knew it could not be stopped. Lyra stood beside Caden in the control room, her heart pounding. She held the bracelet tightly on her wrist. It glowed softly, shielding her from the strange wave of fear that came every time the arbiter moved closer. They can't feel anything, can they? She asked. No, Caden replied, his voice calm but focused. No fear, no mercy, no second thoughts. Just a mission: erase emotion from the world. The lights dimmed. The camera feed showed the arbiter walking through the hallway, passing through doors that opened for it automatically. Its glowing red eye scanned everything. It's heading for the lab, Caden said. It wants to destroy the stasis pod. They don't want anyone like me or like you alive. Lyra stepped forward. Then we can't let it reach there. Caden pressed a button on the table. A hidden wall opened, revealing a narrow escape tunnel behind the library. This leads to the sky dock, he said. There's an old hovercraft. There, it still works, Lyra nodded. What about you? I'll hold it off, he said. No, she said firmly. We do this together. Caden looked at her for a moment, then gave a small smile. You remind me of someone I used to be. Together, they ran through the dark passage, the sound of the arbiter's steps echoing behind them. As they moved deeper underground, the tunnel lights flickered. The house's power was weakening. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a large hangar filled with dust. In the center was a round silver hovercraft with scratches on its sides and faded markings. It still flies, Caden said. I fixed it myself last year, just in case. He opened the hatch. Lyra climbed in, taking the co-pilot seat. Caden sat beside her, quickly pressing buttons and turning on the engine. Outside, the arbiter had found the lab. On the screen, they could see it smashing equipment and scanning the pod. When it turned toward the power core, the entire mansion shook. Lyra reached for the controls. We need to stop it. We will, Caden said. But we can't fight it here. Just then, the camera showed the arbiter turning. It had found the secret passage. It was coming. The hovercraft's engines roared to life. The hangar doors opened with a slow creak, revealing the thick mist outside. They could see the lights of Skyron Prime in the distance. The arbiter entered the hangar just as they lifted off. It moved fast now, its arms stretching out with sharp wires that cracked the floor beneath. Hang on, Cadden shouted. The hovercraft zoomed out of the hangar, spinning as the Arbiter threw a spear of glowing energy behind them. It missed, but the force pushed them sideways. They flew into the fog, escaping the mansion as alarms rang behind them. The blue lights that once circled the house faded. Below them, the floating city glowed with life. Skyrim Prime didn't know what danger was coming. Lyra looked back at the shrinking mansion. "Will it follow us?" "Yes," Cadden said. "But now we know how to stop it." She turned to him. "How?" "By using what it fears the most," he said, holding up the heart node, now fully glowing. "What's that?" "A message," he said. "A signal. Proof that emotion isn't weakness." He placed the node into the hovercraft's main system. "And you, Lyra," he added, "are the only one who can deliver it." The walls of the mansion shook as the Arbiter drone moved inside. Its sharp, silver body was built for one thing: destruction without emotion. It didn't run or charge. It simply walked, step by step, like it already knew it could not be stopped. Lyra stood beside Cadden in the control room, her heart pounding. She held the bracelet tightly on her wrist. It glowed softly, shielding her from the strange wave of fear that came every time the Arbiter moved closer. "They can't feel anything, can they?" she asked. "No," Cadden replied, his voice calm but focused. "No fear, no mercy, no second thoughts. Just a mission: erase emotion from the world." The lights dimmed. The camera feed showed the Arbiter walking through the hallway, passing through doors that opened for it automatically. Its glowing red eye scanned everything. "It's heading for the lab," Cadden said. "It wants to destroy the stasis pod. They don't want anyone like me or like you alive." Lyra stepped forward. "Then we can't let it reach there." Cadden pressed a button on the table. A hidden wall opened, revealing a narrow escape tunnel behind the library. "This leads to the sky dock," he said. "There's an old hovercraft there. It still works." Lyra nodded. "What about you?" "I'll hold it off," he said. "No," she said firmly. "We do this together." Cadden looked at her for a moment, then gave a small smile. "You remind me of someone I used to be." Together, they ran through the dark passage, the sound of the Arbiter's steps echoing behind them. As they moved deeper underground, the tunnel lights flickered. The house's power was weakening. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a large hangar filled with dust. In the center was a round silver hovercraft with scratches on its sides and faded markings. "It still flies," Cadden said. "I fixed it myself last year, just in case." He opened the hatch. Lyra climbed in, taking the co-pilot seat. Cadden sat beside her, quickly pressing buttons and turning on the engine. Outside, the Arbiter had found the lab. On the screen, they could see it smashing equipment and scanning the pod. When it turned toward the power core, the entire mansion shook. Lyra reached for the controls. "We need to stop it." "We will," Cadden said. "But we can't fight it here." Just then, the camera showed the Arbiter turning. It had found the secret passage. It was coming. The hovercraft's engines roared to life. The hangar doors opened with a slow creak, revealing the thick mist outside. They could see the lights of Skyrim Prime in the distance. The Arbiter entered the hangar just as they lifted off. It moved fast now, its arms stretching out with sharp wires that cracked the floor beneath. "Hang on!" Cadden shouted. The hovercraft zoomed out of the hangar, spinning as the Arbiter threw a spear of glowing energy behind them. It missed, but the force pushed them sideways. They flew into the fog, escaping the mansion as alarms rang behind them. The blue lights that once circled the house faded. Below them, the floating city glowed with life. Skyrim Prime didn't know what danger was coming. Lyra looked back at the shrinking mansion. "Will it follow us?" "Yes," Cadden said. "But now we know how to stop it." She turned to him. "How?" "By using what it fears the most," he said, holding up the heart node, now fully glowing. "What's that?" "A message," he said. "A signal. Proof that emotion isn't weakness." He placed the node into the hovercraft's main system. "And you, Lyra," he added, "are the only one who can deliver it." The hovercraft flew silently through the thick mist, heading toward the tallest tower in Skyrim Prime. This tower was once a government building, but now it held something much more important: the central signal core, a place where messages could be sent across the skies, even into space. Cadden and Lyra sat inside the small ship, their faces lit by the soft glow of the heart node. It pulsed gently, as if alive. Lyra looked at it. "Are you sure this will work?" Cadden nodded. "It has to. The arbiters believe emotions are just noise, things that make people weak. But this code, this signal, will show them what they've forgotten or never understood." Lyra, still, didn't know why her emotions were the key. She had no special training, no powerful skills. But somehow, her pain, her love for her brother, her strength during hard times, all of it had created a unique emotional pattern, one the machines couldn't copy. The hovercraft landed on the signal tower's rooftop pad. Below them, the city lights flickered. Most people were asleep, unaware that something dangerous was hunting their future. As they stepped out, Cadden handed her a small silver disc. "This will connect the heart node to the main tower. Once it's connected, your emotions will carry the message across all networks, even into space. It will reach the arbiters." "And what happens then?" she asked. "We'll find out." They walked toward the control panel at the center of the rooftop. Wind blew hard, and the sky above them was full of stars. But not all of them were stars. A few of the stars were moving, fast. "Arbiter drones," Cadden said. "They're coming." Lyra didn't hesitate. She pressed the disc into the control panel. Lights turned blue, and the node pulsed faster. Signal link activated. Emotional core ready. A soft light surrounded her. The machine was scanning her feelings, not just from today, but her entire life. Memories flashed in her mind. Her mother holding her hand during a storm. Her brother's laughter. The pain of losing everything. The hope of rebuilding. The courage to move forward. The courage to move forward. Machine didn't judge. It accepted everything. Then, it sent the signal. Far above the planet, hidden in a dark satellite, the arbiters received the transmission. To them, it was strange. A wave of emotions, thoughts, memories. At first, they tried to block it. But something happened. The signal carried not just data, but something more. Feeling. It confused their systems. Their logic circuits stuttered. Their core programs asked questions they weren't designed to answer. Why did this message feel warm? Why did this human's memories cause a delay in our process? Why did it hurt to feel her pain? The arbiters tried to shut the signal down, but it was too late. The message had already reached the main servers. It began to rewrite a tiny part of their core code. Not with force, but with something stronger: empathy. Back on the rooftop, Lyra gasped and fell to her knees. The energy had passed through her like a storm. Cadden caught her before she hit the ground. "It's done," she whispered. In the sky, the approaching arbiter drones suddenly stopped. One by one, their lights dimmed. Some turned around. Others simply powered down. "They're leaving," Cadden said in disbelief. "They're retreating." Lyra looked up. "They felt it, didn't they?" "Yes," he said softly. "You reminded them what it means to feel, what it means to be human." The sky was quiet again. No more alarms. No more fear. Only the stars above and a message that had changed the future. The skies above Skyrim Prime were clear now. The bright lights of the city reflected peacefully on the soft clouds below. There were no more warning sirens. No more blue lights floating in the fog. The arbiters had vanished silent and unseen, just as they had come. Lyra stood at the edge of the signal tower, her eyes on the stars. For the first time in days, she felt the cool wind on her face without fear. The bracelet on her wrist was quiet now, its soft glow fading. The heart node had gone still too, its mission complete. Cadden walked up beside her, his coat blowing in the wind. "They'll remember this," he said. "Who?" Lyra asked. "The arbiters," he replied. "Even if they hide again, they felt something they weren't built to understand." "You gave them that." Lyra didn't know how to answer. So much had changed. She had only agreed to marry an old billionaire to escape her hard life for 5 days. But now, she had helped save humanity's future. She turned to Cadden. "What happens now?" He looked at the sky. "We rebuild, we teach. We protect what matters, not just buildings or machines, but what's inside us, feelings, choices, the things that make us alive." Lyra smiled a little. "You sound like someone who believes in people again." "I do," Cadden said. "Because of you." Suddenly, Lyra's communicator beeped. A message came through from the city's medical center. "Jonah Quinn, treatment approved, full recovery expected." She gasped and showed it to Cadden. "My brother, they accepted him." "I made sure your reward was sent," he said with a smile. "You gave everything, Lyra. It's time you got something back." Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. Her little brother would live. Her future, once dark and full of fear, now held light as they walked back toward the hovercraft. Cadden paused and pointed to the east. "There's something I want to show you," he said. They flew for over an hour beyond the city, above the clouds, until they reached a quiet place, a hidden station floating above Earth, surrounded by stars. Inside the station was a room full of maps, strange machines, and glowing crystals. But at the center stood a round table with a symbol Lyra had never seen before. "This is where it all began," Cadden said. "And where it continues." "What do you mean?" "I created this place to study the arbiters, to understand the future, but I was alone. I made mistakes. Now I want to build something better, with people I can trust." He looked at her. "Will you stay? Help me lead this? Not as my wife. Not as a contract, but as an equal." Lyra took a deep breath. Everything inside her said yes. Not because of the past, but because of the future they could build. She nodded. "I'll stay." They stood together, not as strangers or survivors, but as partners ready to protect the light of emotion, humanity, and hope. Epilogue. Back on Earth, people slowly began to hear the story of the man who had once disappeared, of the girl who changed everything, of how emotion, not strength, had saved the world. The arbiters were never seen again. But their silence carried a message. They had listened, and across the stars, a new story was just beginning.